Hello and welcome. Let's talk a little bit about keeping up with the Jones and social proof. Or keeping up with the cones. What does it mean? Very simple. It means keeping up with the Jones means you're trying to emulate or not be outdone by your neighbors or your friends. That's what it means. In other words, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, do we care more about looking like we have money, appearing as if we have wealth, or actually having wealth? There's a saying that I once heard. Once read about it actually. Nice hat, but no cattle. In other words, person could have a nice cowboy hat, which is supposed to be symbolic that he owns a lot of animals and a lot of land, but he's got nothing. Now, social proof means it's our tendency to think and act as others around us think and act. The truth is, this is a very important concept of being affected by the environment that we live in. And it was discussed already thousands of years ago. The pasuk, the verse in Mishlay says, Yud Gimel Chaf, Holich es chachamim, someone who goes with the wise people, he will grow wise. And someone who is in the companion, in the company of fools, he's going to be broken. The Medrash Mishlay in Yud Gimel compares it to someone goes into a perfume store. Even if the customer didn't buy anything, the customer will smell like perfume. We get affected by our environment. That's the idea. Directly, indirectly, both, or both. We therefore have to be careful that we're in a good environment to get positively affected, rather than be in a negative environment and get negatively affected. Chaim on Chumash, Yud Beis, Aleph, says that it's even preferable to dwell in a neighborhood that has lions rather than an area that has sinners. Mishna in Pirkei Avos says, "Hisrachik mishachin rov al titchaber lorasha." Distance yourself from a bad neighbor and don't associate with a wicked person. Rabbi Ovadia Bartenura explains that this is necessary in order that we won't learn from the bad ways of wicked people. Furthermore, it's in order that we don't get punished when our neighbor will get punished, which means, Avos D'Rebbi Noson explains in Parak Tes, one of the disadvantages of having a neighbor who is a wicked person is that if, let's say, for example, you share a house, it's a two-family house, and you share a house, and the person, your neighbor, is a wicked person, and he spoke derogatory information about someone, and he got tzaras on the wall of his house. If they're going to knock down his wall, it's going to affect your wall also. There are many disadvantages of living next to bad neighbors and sinners, right? There might be pollution, smoke that's going to blow in your yard, other sorts of ideas based on that. They might damage outdoor property, not fix it. Loud music. They might not clean up after the dogs. They might not even put a leash on their dogs, and many, many other ways. So we have to be careful not to be in a bad environment and to be influenced by neighbors and friends which have lavish spending habits, so to say. This is why there's a concept of being financially advantageous to live in an area that isn't so wealthy. Because this test and natural inclination of keeping up with the Jones doesn't exist. It's keeping up with the Jones. You have to make sure. You have to do what's right. Sometimes what everyone's doing isn't right, and you have to go against it. Got to stand up, look at your ultimate goals. This idea, it's very interesting. We find that in another source that sometimes it's also good for a neighbor who lives next to a righteous person. Which one is it? Is it good or bad? In other words, it's bad to live next to a bad neighbor, but for a bad neighbor, it's good that he lives next to a good neighbor. So, like, which one is it? So Rabbi Galinsky explains in his towards the end of, in Parshas Vayikra, he explains that it depends who's gonna be stronger than the other. Will the good neighbor be better than the bad neighbor, or vice versa? And that is who will affect the other person. He says the same applies with us. We all have a good inclination and evil inclination. Who will be stronger? We have to try to get the good one to be stronger than the bad one. Anyways, that's what it means keeping up with the Jones or the Cones, and we have to be careful to go against that when it's bad for our financial future.